Welcome back to News 3 Today. Our area has dealt with a lot of rain and flooding lately, but there was one year when we also dealt with an earthquake, believe it or not. Now scientists have used historic records and photographs to pinpoint the cause. After a brief hiatus, our favorite tour guide and lover of all things Savannah and historian Enocha Edenfield is back with historic happenings. Thank you so much for being here. We've missed you.
Hibernate for a little bit.
Yeah. Although you were still very, very busy.
Yes.
So today we're going to talk about something that we don't normally talk about here in our area, and that's earthquakes. But there was a big one back in the 1800s.
Yeah, we experienced the strongest earthquake so far recorded on the East Coast in 1886, and we're coming up on the anniversary.
Yeah.
So it was August 31st, 1886, and the epicenter was in South Carolina. This earthquake at its strongest is believed to have been somewhere around a 7.2.
Wow, okay.
Like the actual point kind of varies, but Charleston was closest to the epicenter. They got hit with a lot worse. But because this earthquake was so strong, it rippled out. It echoed, essentially, throughout the East Coast. And they felt it in Chicago, Boston, New Orleans, Cuba.
Can you believe that?
I know.
Wow.
And since we are only about 60 miles geographically away from Charleston, we got hit with it as well. And it destroyed buildings and killed people in both cities. Charleston obviously getting the worst. It killed about 60 people and damaged thousands of buildings up there. And it's something that we're still seeing the effects of today. And so scientists have been trying to understand, you know, what caused this. They have identified faults all up and down the East Coast, obviously. Our fault lines don't act up as much as they do on the West Coast, which is great.
Thank goodness, yes.
But you know, they shake up every once in a while to remind us that they're there. Apparently we had some tremors somewhere in Georgia yesterday.
Yeah, in Evans County, believe
Yeah.
it or not. Okay, so the result of that earthquake can still be seen at the Low House.
Yes, so if you look at the Andrew Low House, at the front of it, there is a porch that essentially is supposed to wrap around it. But you'll notice that there's only a porch on the, if you're facing it on the left side, there's not one on the right side, but there used to be. But when we got the earthquake here in 1886, it collapsed the porch on the right side, and they never replaced it. So you can only see the one on the left side. They did reuse some of the ironwork to create railings in front of some of the windows on the right side, but that's it.
Yeah.
And you'll also see earthquake bolts around Savannah, bolts that
I was
go
going
through
to
the
ask you,
buildings.
what are those exactly?
So originally they're designed to stabilize the brickwork. Because over time with these older buildings, brick will start to separate from the buildings. So that's
I've seen that.
originally what they're supposed to do. But they discovered that they also worked really well for earthquakes.
So scientists are using photographs and other documents to
Yes.
kind of tell the story.
So like I said, fault lines had been identified in South Carolina, but nobody knew specifically like which fault line was the cause of this earthquake. And so there were two scientists, a seismologist, Susan Huff, and a research scientist, Roger Billam, who decided to look into it. And they are grabbing all these historic documents and photographs and comparing those to what we see today and comparing them to older maps that existed prior to the earthquake. And they realized that the Somerville fault in Somerville, South Carolina, had raised the ground by 3 feet.
Wow.
Right? And they are comparing photographs of some of the railroad damage.
Yeah.
Because railroads were shifted, rail lines were buckled, and there was a particular photo of a railroad close to Somerville, and what they realized is that the railroads actually recorded this seismic activity, and they were able to trace it all back to Somerville.
And so that railroad was kind of like an S shape,
Yes,
right?
which is also wild.
Which is kind of scary. Okay.
But there's a lot more science to it, and if you're interested in reading more about that, they did publish their findings in the Seismic Record last year and the Bulletin of the Seismological Society of America in 2024. It's a mouthful.
All right. And where can folks find you and find more information? Because this is, you know, information that we did not know. We learn something new every day.
Yeah. You can find me on my website, Enocha Edenfield Tours. You can also find me on Instagram at Eni Edenfield and on TikTok at Saltwaves Spanish Moss.
She's IG famous. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.